Hello everyone and welcome back to the least showered man on YouTube, where today we are going over Vault of Glass weapons. They are now craftable with Heresy Episode 3. I have been getting a ton of questions, like way more questions than I ever thought I was going to get about Vault of Glass weapons, but they're getting refreshed. I mean, they have been. We got some premier perks on a lot of different weapons here, so let's talk about it. First up, we have Fatebringer, one of the most popular weapons in the history of the franchise. What do we got on this thing? We have kinetic tremors. We have explosive payload. We have Firefly. We have One for All. We even have Magnificent Hell on this thing. More of a PvP thing. We'll get to that in a sec. Kinetic tremors, I think more of an end game perk. You know, you do need the time to actually activate this perk in the first place, and you're not really going to be doing a ton of that in lower end content where you're getting like 1 or 2 taps on your average red bar enemy. Maybe it's decent for some certain orange bar enemies, but even then you're killing a bunch of them basically by the exact moment that you would be activating kinetic tremors anyway. So I think this is going to be relegated more for slightly harder content. The exact opposite goes for Magnificent Howl. This is more of a win more type perk, where if you're able to stack up a ton of precision final blows, you probably don't need the bonus damage that's going to follow. You know what I mean? Like if you're already getting one tap, if you do 50% more damage on a one tap, it's still a one tap. You know what I mean? So as things get more difficult, you're not going to be able to get as many shots loaded up because of Magnificent Hell, because things just have more health. So and on the easier end, you're already doing so much damage that you don't really need this. And then the harder end, you're only going to get like 2, 3, maybe 4 shots all the way stacked up. Again, compared to a One for All, where all you need to do is hit 3 separate enemies for 35% increased damage, and you can just refresh this as much as you want. Sorry, I hit the microphone. So I'm keeping Magnificent Hell more towards like a PvP situation. You're looking at like opening shot, keep away, something like that if you want to roll that way. PvE wise, what do I think a lot of people are going to do? Boom, boom. Explosive payload, Firefly. It's just, it's a good setup. People really like to do their 2 damage perk setups if they can. And Firefly is like half and half, right? You have your damage portion with the AoE, but you also have the bonus reload speed. And people really like explosive payload. It's a fantastic perk. So I see very little reason to kind of skew from this. If you want to go One for All explosive payload, could you do that? Sure. Do I feel like you can get this on some other kind of hand cannon as well? It's probably out there somewhere. Yeah, ultimately, I do think people are going to lean towards this, and I think it's probably one of the more well-rounded choices. You want to do rewind rounds, One for All, something like that. Like, I'm not going to stop you, right? That's okay. Another question, Midnight Coup. Midnight Coup is a great hand cannon, came out with Into the Light. If you already have a really nice Midnight Coup that you like using, do I think you need to go super fast farm in a Fatebringer? Probably not, right? I got a Midnight Coup. I just hit 10,000 kills on. It's got Firefly One for All. I really like it, but you also know that I love me some One for All, right? I'm not in the biggest hurry to like lock in a Fatebringer. But if you are, again, like not going to stop you. But if you're the kind of person who maybe has trouble trying to lock down a team, or like a team that wants to farm Vault of Glass, do I think you need to be in the hugest hurry? Not particularly. You know, the Time Loss magazine is very good, right? It's a very good origin trait. Final blows with this weapon grant bonus super energy. When your super expires, this weapon's magazine size is doubled for a long duration and reloads from reserves. Like, it's a great origin trait. But is it enough that I think you need to like drop everything that you're doing and go farm a Fatebringer? No. But if you can get one eventually, cool. Next up, we have Praedyth's Revenge, 140 RPM rapid fire sniper. Its current competition is the Supremacy from Last Wish, also craftable. That weapon can get rewind 4th times the charm, so you're just able to basically shoot that thing forever, right? Very, very good weapon. What can we do on here? I'm going to start with the second column because I think bait and switch is going to be the main choice that you make here. We're not taking high impact reserves. Frenzy is okay. We're not taking Firefly for like DPS purposes. Same with opening shot. Could you take precision instrument? Sure, but it's a pretty strict perk to work with. And elemental honing is like kind of unproven right now. I think we need to get some more time with this perk and some more boss situations to see how realistic is it to incorporate something like this into our damage rotation. But while I believe it's 35% for maximum stacks, but the bonus is increased for kinetics, so you can get a little more of an edge there. But this is already 30%. It's already pretty hefty, and it's pretty tried and true. So for now, I think everyone's going to be glomping on to bait and switch. But for the other perk that you can select, rewind 4th times, you want to keep it a little more traditional, you can totally do that. Envious Arsenal, it's got a little bit different utility, kind of depends on the loadout that you're going for, but considering one of the weapons in here, this might be something that you might be interested in. And you do also have kinetic tremors as well, although I haven't personally done a lot of the math on kinetic tremors versus 4th times the charm versus envious versus rewind rounds. They're all good perks in their own way, and I do think it's very setup dependent. I do think it's very boss dependent. I think it's potentially loadout dependent, strategy, like it just depends. Right? It just depends on the kind of thing that you're doing. But do I think you're going to grab bait and switch at the end of the day? Absolutely. But what else you end up picking, I think we'll learn a bit more information as the episode goes on, and we kind of lock down what ends up being a better play, especially given, we don't even know what's really happening in the dungeon, although the dungeon is out as of this video being out, so I guess we'll find out. Next up, we got Found Verdict, aggressive frame shotgun, 55 RPM. It's still arc. What do we got here? We do have a lot of premier PvE perks, and by a lot, I mean like really the main two, trench barrel, 1-2 punch. Do I think this is much of a trench barrel shotgun? Not necessarily. I do think it's more of like a 1-2 punch kind of a deal. But I think the most popular roles have been PvP oriented, as if we haven't had enough good PvP shotguns come out recently over the year. This is another one that I've seen overwhelmingly drift towards more of a PvP loadout. You got opening shot, threat detector, you got slide shot, opening shot. These are really just the options to take for PvP. I think a lot of people are probably going to drift towards threat detector more than slide shot. Just kind of depends on your play style. But yeah, you got 1-2 punch on here. You can definitely do some 1-2 punching with this thing. Also, probably with threat detector, maybe I probably wouldn't go rewind rounds on this thing. Maybe you could even do like slide shot just to, be able to reload the magazine just by slide. You don't actually have to do any sort of manual reloads. Yeah, I mean, that's really all I'm kind of considering on this thing. Is just, if you're going to do like a 1-2 punch thing, go ahead. But I think it's more like a this, and it's more like a this. Next up, we have fan favorite scout rifle, Vision of Confluence, solar, 180 RPM. The only thing that I have in my notes is it's a scout. So, look, this has a role that I'm actively using on my 3rd most used weapon across the entire Destiny 2 lifetime. Okay, Zali's Bane. I'm rocking explosive payload incandescent. It's a great perk roll, right? There's a lot of other good stuff here too. You got heal clip if you want to mess around with heal clip firefly or something like that. You want to do it incandescent firefly with some, double damage action going on as well. You can totally do that. Same with explosive payload, right? The options are here. It's just that you have to be a scout user in order to want to use this. It doesn't matter how good the perk roll is if the weapon archetype is something that I don't want to use. I don't have a single upgraded or like properly leveled legendary scout rifle in my entire vault. They're all 1900. That should give you a rough idea of how much someone like myself is using scout rifles right now. 0. Basically 0. Unless it's exotic and it's got like something special going on. My most used scout rifle of recent memory, Touch of Malice, okay? And that's doing like insane damage, that's why. So if you're a scout enjoyer and something like this looks cool to you, go get it, right? You like scouts, you like playing with scouts, okay. You're a little more defensively minded, okay, go get this, right? It's a great perk roll, But for everybody else out there, it still just suffers from being a scout rifle. That's really all I have to say. Next up, we have corrective measure, 600 RPM void, heavy machine gun, as if we needed yet another one. I am still using my old corrective measure, which also has subsistence and one for all on it. It's a great machine gun, but I've been rocking the commemoration. I think commemoration might be my highest leveled weapon out of all of my weapons. I still really love using it. Reconstruction's really, really nice to just automatically load the magazine. But there's so many different directions that you can go with this thing. We have I don't want to say unnerfed, but like newly buffed destabilizing rounds. You can combine that with like almost anything here. Demoralize, new perk. You can just chain weaken effects and chain volatile everywhere. I'm sure there's some void synergy that you can kind of mess around with that. That's a very interesting combination. You want to go a little more traditional, you can just kind of go killing tally, or you could do like a one for all situation, subsistence one for all. You can do subsistence killing tally. You could do rewind killing tally. You can do a rewind one for all. They even got withering gaze on this thing if you really want to try to do that, to more deliberately put down your weakens onto certain targets, although you do kind of lose out on the damage perk unless you want to get Firefly on this thing as well to kind of make up for it. There's so many options on here, but if we do want to, again, work with the gift that the game is giving us, maybe we want to try around with destabilizing rounds a little bit, destabilizing, demoralize, destabilizing, killing tally, something like that. Get a little more experimental. Do something with this weapon that you can't do with other kinds of weapons, like your hammerhead, like your commemoration, like your old corrective measure, right? You can't do these things with those older weapons. So if you are going to chase one of these down, do it for the novelty, because you can do something different, because this can get a role that the other weapons can't, right? And again, the origin trait, still very, very good. But if you don't want to get creative, if you're fine with your commemoration, am I going to blame you for not chasing one of these down? No, I am not. But there's a lot of good stuff and a lot of neat stuff on here that you can do. Finally, we got Hezen Vengeance, Solar Aggressive Frame Rocket, a weapon that in the past I have not really been too fond of, but is now the best rocket in the game. Envious Arsenal, bait and switch. It's got basically every other premier perk you could possibly want in this column, in the second column as well. But envious bait, man. It's envious bait. And I mean, you also, when your super expires, you get another mag, so you can fire off a rocket, pop your super real quick, boom, you got 2 rockets in the magazine now. I mean, what else do you want? You even got overflow here if you really want to mess around with overflow. You got auto-loading holster here if you want to do that. Although I believe this is disabled for the dungeon, but chances are you're probably watching this after the dungeon's already come out. For contest mode, if you want some like grenade tech here for like demolitionists, you could do that too. But like Envious Arsenal, bait and switch, done. You don't need nothing else. This is it, okay? This is what you get right here. Envious, bait, done, okay? Those are your Vault of Glass weapons. A little more cut and dry, I think, than the episodic weapons. But, there are, again, like, fatebringer, not a weapon that I think you need to put a huge hurry in if you got the Midnight Coup. Praedyth's Revenge, if you got Supremacy, you can probably, this is a nice alternative as well. Found Verdict, more of like a PvP thing, but you probably already have like a good PvP shotgun if you're that kind of guy from the last couple of things that have come out, right? Prophet of Doom, I'm thinking of you, Garden Salvation. Vision of Confluence, it's a freaking scout rifle, brother. Corrective Measure, a lot of different alternatives there as well. But Hezen Vengeance, gotta be the number one thing to go hunt down. I used, for the first time in I don't know how long, I used deep sight harmonizers to lock this thing down like as soon as humanly possible, okay? This. Go get this. And then call me in the morning. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.